raised by Pakistan government very seriously.
Good evening. Ayaz Nizami is among 3 bloggers in Pakistan who face the death penalty. They were arrested last week. Hang Ayaz Nizami is among the top trends on Twitter in Pakistan as we speak. Facebook has reportedly deleted scores of pages for being blasphemous. Pakistan's blasphemy laws are like Bangladesh's, where bloggers were killed for speaking their mind in the past few years. Tonight on Gravitas, we ask, who decides what's blasphemy and is it being used as a pretext for murder? I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. The headlines first. Theresa May triggers the official Brexit process with the Article 50 letter delivered. Says it's a historic moment, there's no turning back. Missing you already, says the EU's Donald Tusk. Westminster-like terror scare in Washington this evening. Capitol Hill on lockdown after a motorist smashes his car into policemen on foot. Gunshots heard. The driver is under arrest. Another dramatic twist in the French presidential poll. Ex-Prime Minister Manuel Valls backs centrist candidate Emmanuel Macron. And not his own Socialist Party candidate, says the decision is in France's best interest. Ayaz Nizami is a Pakistani ex-Muslim, as he calls himself, an outspoken critic of the government. He was arrested on the 24th of March along with 2 other bloggers and charged with blasphemy in an anti-terror court in Islamabad. They face the death penalty. Fundamentalists on social media are baying for their blood. Many others are protesting against the arrest and demanding their release. This comes at a time when social media giant Facebook has reportedly buckled under pressure to delete quote-unquote blasphemous content in Pakistan. Listen in to Pakistan's Interior Minister Chaudhry Nisar Ali Khan.
पहली दफा फेसबुक ने बहुत पॉजिटिवली रिस्पॉन्ड किया. उनके वाइस प्रेसिडेंट का कल ही मुझे खत आया और इसमें उन्होंने बहुत सी अच्छी बातें की. मैं सिर्फ 2 सेंटेंस पढ़ सकता हूं. I wanted to reiterate that Facebook takes the concern raised by Pakistan government very seriously. और उन्होंने कहा कि we have also committed to send our representatives to meet with you and senior officials of your government.
Nisar Ali Khan was quoting a letter from Facebook's vice president. His government told the Islamabad High Court that almost 85% of blasphemous material on Facebook has been taken down at their request. The Pakistan government says their ambassador in the US has met officials in the FBI and US Justice Department to underline their concerns and reach out to Facebook, and that both these agencies have been very receptive. Interestingly, Facebook has neither confirmed nor denied these statements. The app has about 25 to 30 million active users in Pakistan. Joining me this evening is Abdul Basut. He's a senior researcher and he's with us from Singapore. Good evening, Abdul. 65 people have been killed on charges of blasphemy, according to one report, in Pakistan in the last 2 decades. Do you think today the situation is much worse?
Well, with this new wave of the arrests in Pakistan, and then these bloggers were released in a very mysterious manner, the way they were arrested by the security agencies. So the entire debate and the trend has got a new impetus. And with state jumping into this controversy, with higher courts being involved in this, with the country's interior minister getting involved writing letters to the Facebook and then doing the press conferences. So certainly, a new narrative is taking shape. Now, what has happened in Pakistan that a wave of new mushrooming now under the umbrella of blasphemy issues. If you remember, post 9/11, these narratives of radicalism, religiously inspired extremism were mushrooming under the umbrella of a Sharia movement or turning Pakistan into a theocracy. And we saw these different Taliban movements, Taliban groups, other militant groups, which were striving for that. And they had their connections with regional and transnational militant groups like Al-Qaeda, the Afghan Taliban, etc. Now, this movement of new fundamentalism, which is sprouting under the umbrella of the blasphemy issues, is coming from different kind of religious groups,
Right.
which in last 2 years have become very assertive politically, and now they are, making a mark ideologically as well under the umbrella of blasphemy issues.
Okay, so that explains what's happening in Pakistan. But Pramit Pal, foreign editor of Hindustan Times, also joining us from Kolkata. Pramit, what explains a social media giant like Facebook buckling under pressure?
Well, companies like Facebook and Twitter and so on will automatically have to follow the laws of the countries in which they operate. They don't really have an option on that front. You may remember that in China, Google and some of the big email firms actually had to hand over the names of dissidents, political dissidents, who had used social media to criticize the Chinese government. They were attacked by their own US Congress, criticized them for doing so, but their response was that we have to follow the law, and if we're going to operate in a country, we really have no choice. I think this is actually relatively minor compared to a lot of the things that they have to face. In India, for example, companies like Facebook and Google are regularly ordered to shut down websites by the Indian government. In fact, India is one of the top 3 or 4 largest countries in terms of the number of requests that are made to censor social media. So this is not a new issue, and it's not a surprise that the companies involved do not put up much of a fight.
Right. The fundamental difference being that censorship, one may want to criticize it, but censorship is one thing, and putting a blogger in jail and for that blogger to be facing the death sentence is quite another. Wouldn't you say that's a bit extreme?
Yeah, well, that Facebook is not responsible for putting the blogger into jail.
Sure.
That's the nature of the blasphemy law that Pakistan has. And yes, the blasphemy law has been strongly criticized within Pakistan and elsewhere. But unfortunately, as the previous speaker has mentioned, there has been a very strong Islamic fundamentalist tinge to Pakistan for quite a few years. This is not the first time this has happened. As you've mentioned, there have been many cases of people being killed and sentenced under the blasphemy laws. And this is also not the first time that Facebook and other social media companies have been ordered to shut down websites. In fact, in 2010, Nawaz Sharif also led an attack on Facebook and demanded that certain websites be shut down on the issue of blasphemy.
Right. Abdul, there's an overwhelming number of people who are asking for the death penalty online. The hashtag, as appalling as it is trending. Hang Ayaz Nizami is something that is making headlines in Pakistan. Would you say that this is just a certain section of society that takes to social media and campaigns in this way, or is this a fair reflection of the popular mood in Pakistan?
Well, I won't say it's a reflection of the popular mood, but what happens in Pakistan is that, society without questioning or without knowing the nuance of the issue would just jump on the bandwagon and would like to join the trend. Because for them, if the issue is that blasphemy has been committed, the person should be hanged without questioning that has it been established by any credible body whether blasphemy was committed or not. And this is where the role of the religious right in Pakistan is quite critical and has to be seen, with a very critical view, because they are the ones who have been, propping up this own social media now. Because if these blogs were, appeared in the spaces of social media, so they would like to respond in the same coin, in the same medium. And this is where the state, instead of, balancing and coming in as an arbiter, as a neutral arbiter, balance the debate and bring a rationalization of how these laws in Pakistan can be reformed and how the debate can be moderated. Instead of doing that, when state joins them by writing letters to Facebook, I think this is where you cannot blame the public then, because when religious right, where people traditionally look for religious education, for religious inspiration, they started something and then state joined them at the highest level, then you cannot blame the public. Public only responds if state is taking responsibility and it is, going after these hardliners to, fall in line and do not misguide the public opinion.
Sure.
So public opinion, I would certainly say, is misguided. But yes, as you said, the trend is there on Facebook. So once the trend starts, then public jumps in.
Right. Mayad Ali, senior journalist, also joining us from Islamabad this evening. Mr. Ali, we're only seeing reports from afar. How much trouble is Ayaz Nizami and the other two bloggers? How much trouble are they really in? Right, I'm told that we've lost the link there with Mayad Ali, and we'll try to reconnect with him. In the meantime, this is what we want to tell our viewers. Clerics push for the strictest punishment for blasphemy, but as with all things in religion, what scriptures say is open to interpretation. Blasphemy, according to the Quran, is an impious utterance or action concerning God, Muhammad, or anything considered sacred in Islam. That is the definition. Now, the Holy Book, we are told, admonishes it, but does not specify any worldly punishment for blasphemy. The hadiths, which are the source of Sharia, suggest various punishments, including death. But the question is, who decides what's blasphemous and where do they draw the line? And that is indeed the question. Abdul Basit, do you see this campaign then a bit arbitrary and even politically motivated, some would say?
Motivated. As I told you, in the last 2 years, the trend of religious fundamentalism in Pakistan has taken a new bend. And this started with the hanging of the murder of former governor of Punjab, Salman Taseer Mumtaz Qadri. Once he was hanged, a particular religious segment, which in the past either remained apolitical or remained politically less assertive, became more assertive, because they saw this as an assault on their rights. They saw this as an assault on their vested interest. So they came out and they made that instance of hanging of Mumtaz Qadri, the murderer of former governor of Punjab, Salman Taseer, to assert themselves. They not only asserted themselves politically, but they also asserted themselves quite forcefully ideologically as well. And after that, in the last 2 years, by this particular group, religious group, we have seen in Pakistan tendencies of mob violence as well as tendencies of vigilante violence. And that is quite problematic. Very recently, in Punjab University of Lahore, a group of students, Pashtun students, who were doing the traditional Pashtun dance, Atan, they were attacked by a group of student group of Jamaat-e-Islami in Punjab. So this growing fundamentalism within the society is problematic. Certain actors within Pakistan would certainly use this cover of growing religiosity to further their political interest. And it seems like, unfortunately, that state is also trying to get more teeth to the laws to curb political dissent within the garb of this religious sentiments, which is quite high right now in Pakistan. So they would like to get more powers, and they would like to add more teeth to the laws. So tomorrow they can use the same laws against the political dissent within the country, which may have nothing to do with issues like blasphemy. So once again, we are seeing the trend. It has been there in the past, but it is now exhibiting itself in different manifestation. Earlier in the 80s, the issue of jihad was exploited for regional interest in Afghanistan.
Right.
The same card was used in the 90s, and now I think moving away from jihad, the new issue that is there in front of them to exploit for political and other interests is the issue of blasphemy.
Sure, sure. Pramit Pal, then can the government of Pakistan really argue that its hands are tied because at the end of the day, it's only following a high court order?
The point is there are two issues here. There are a number of people, a lot of the people who have been killed under the charge of blasphemy have been done effectively by mobs or lynch groups or by other extrajudicial means. The number of people actually executed under blasphemy law by the courts is actually quite few. In fact, I'm not too certain how many there have been in recent times at all. So if they go through the legal process, it's less likely that they will actually be sentenced to death. We'll have to see what happens in this case. But I think for Sharif, for Nawaz Sharif, the Prime Minister, he's facing elections next year. Pakistan will go for general elections in 2018. He's actually in a very strong position because his main opposition, the Pakistan People's Party, is not doing very well outside its home province of Sindh. So he actually doesn't have too much to worry about. And he's actually been quite liberal on the election, on the policy side. He passed a Hindu marriage bill. He's passed a women protection bill. And on the Hindu holy day of Holi, he actually made a speech denouncing religious fundamentalism and calling for tolerance. So my sense is using the blasphemy issue, or at least the one about using Facebook, or asking Facebook to basically make sure that he's not outflanked on the right by an Islamic party elsewhere, because otherwise he really doesn't have too much to worry about electorally in Pakistan right now.
And what explains an anti-terror court hearing cases of blasphemy in Pakistan then? Pramit?
Pakistan has an unusual legal structure. They have a Sharia court system. Then, hello?
Yes.
Hello? I said Pakistan has an unusual legal system, which they have essentially a Sharia court system, a normal secular court system, and then they've added on bits and pieces of different court structures and legal systems. So it's a bit of a patchwork. And you'll often actually have situations where one court, a Sharia court, for example, an Islamic court, will pass a death sentence on somebody over something like this, and then it'll go to a secular court, which will then overturn it. So it's a bit of a mess. They have a very strange legal structure that is a consequence of their own internal political battles and struggles about the nature of their society, whether it's secular, it's Islamist, or something different. And then on top of that, as you said, they now have anti-terrorism courts, which have been established with very, very fluent, should we say, very, very vague jurisdiction. And they come in at all sorts of levels. Ultimately, what normally happens is will be appealed at a much higher level. And then you start to see the high courts and the Supreme Courts come in and try to produce a little more introduce a bit more sanity to the legal system and the judgments.
Right. I'm going to request you both to stay with us as these events are unfolding in Pakistan. Bloggers and social media users are watching very closely in Bangladesh, a country that has seen several bloggers being hacked to death over the past few years. In fact, WION's Dhaka Bureau Chief Saad Hamadi sent us a report today.
Since 2013, at least 6 atheist bloggers have been killed. The Hifazat-e-Islam, a right-wing Islamist party, has issued a list of 84 atheist bloggers to the government and asked them to take measures to punish these bloggers. They have demanded death penalty be issued to these bloggers for hurting religious sentiments. The government and police have also issued statements subsequently asking the bloggers to refrain from using statements and remarks in their blogs that could hurt religious sentiments. The bloggers, on the other hand, have been skeptic about what the government will do and the kind of actions they would be taking, and which is why they have been very cautious in their writings and posts they have made on the blogs. Having said that, we have also noticed some of the bloggers going out of the board to write remarks that could be hurting sentiments of not just the Islamist parties but also other religious communities. In general, the religious communities have been targeted by atheist bloggers occasionally, not by all atheist bloggers, but by some of them who have been deliberate in making remarks that could be hurtful and not just based on any scientific rationale, as opposed to some of the other bloggers such as Abhijit Roy, who has been very prominent as an atheist blogger, but as well as being scientific in his explanations for his views about why he did not believe in any particular religion. But contrarily, we have seen other bloggers who have been quite hurtful in their use of language in the past, and that has created a tension, a divide between the religious groups such as Hifazat-e-Islam and also the bloggers. The general bloggers have been quite scared in the process and have refrained from using blog altogether as a medium of communication. Now, that has created a fear in the community, in the society, in how they use the blog, which has become popular since 2005 in Bangladesh. This is Saad Hamadi for WION in Dhaka.
Abhijit Roy, a US Bangladeshi engineer and blogger, was hacked to death by Islamist radicals in Bangladesh. And WION also spoke to his father on the kind of threats he received and how bloggers like him dealt with the growing intolerance in that country.
Following Abhijit's killing, there are as many as 13 or 14 bloggers have been killed, including some teachers in Rajshahi University, and some attacks were also done on the teachers, although they are not ultimately died, in Shahjalal University in the North Senate. So the things were not very desirable for the free thinkers, for the liberal ones, who wants to see Bangladesh a truly secular democratic country.
Abdul Basit, when you see the events in Pakistan, do you see parallels with Bangladesh?
Well, you see, let me just refer to one point made by the analyst earlier, that, Nawaz Sharif is in a very favorable position facing elections next year, and he has been making very positive statements. He has passed a bill about registration of Hindu marriages in Pakistan. He attended a ceremony of Holi and all that. Now, the dichotomy of countries, Muslim majority countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and in Southeast Asia countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, is that at one side they are doing all these positive steps, and on the other side, parallel to that, simultaneously, they are taking steps which are self-defeating, or which are diametrically opposite of what they have done a day before, or a policy which they have passed before. Now, in Bangladesh, if you look, there are stark parallels. The only difference in cases of blasphemy and these violence and murders of the bloggers in Bangladesh, in the case of Pakistan, is that in Bangladesh, the state is not involved. In Pakistan's case, somewhere or the other, state has some role to play, and they kind of, tend to appease the religious right. Now, if you look at Bangladesh, at one side, there have been all these hangings of ex-leaders of Jamaat-e-Islami who were involved in war crimes. At the same time, there are these movements going on. And now, if you scratch the surface And if you look at that, who actually, other than Hifazat Islam, who was involved behind these murders of these secular bloggers, it is the regional affiliate of Al-Qaeda in South Asia, or AQIS,
Right.
who have been championing the cause of blasphemy, and they have been behind these targeted killings. And they have tried to exploit the same issue in Pakistan and to certain extent in India as well. The ingress of AQIS is not as strong in India as it is in countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Sure.
So this is a very dangerous step, because if you look at the security trends, Al-Qaeda over the years since 2014, last 3 years, they have lost appeal and they have lost attraction for the jihadists to a better group like ISIS in Syria and Iraq. Now, if these issues, state takes them up, it gives chance to groups like Al-Qaeda to revive.
Right.
And they can jump on this popular narrative to get, new recruits in their ranks.
Sure.
So states and societies in countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh have to be quite careful about how they deal with these issues, because if they are blown out
Let's talk to someone who's on the ground. I'm told Mayad Ali, a senior journalist from Islamabad, is back with us on the phone line. Mr. Ali, what's going on? How much trouble are these bloggers really in?
I think the narrative that already was given by the colleague who was speaking earlier, I don't subscribe to that idea. I think Al-Qaeda or ISIS or ISIL or any other such banner or group, they are the same people. They have the same school. They belong to the same school of thought, and they have the same strategy and everything. They just keep on changing their names and come up with new sort of agendas wherever they are required. Number one. Number two, as far as this case is concerned, if we are talking about the blasphemy problem here in Pakistan and the initiatives, I think it is more to do with, it has more to do with the politics, internal politics, because the judge who has taken initiative on this issue on a petition, who has come very strongly on that, has his own case being sort of tried in the Supreme Judicial Council. So I think it was a retaliatory, I would say, response to the government and to make them budge somewhere. And I think that the judge has succeeded to a certain extent, because such matters have a mass appeal in Pakistan.
So you're saying the government had no options but to comply, and they were not willingly playing ball?
I am not. They have not complied the way they had earlier in the case of in the case of YouTube. You see, when it was banned from Pakistan, they have come up with a very solid solution. They have sort of asked the Facebook people and the Twitter people, and one of Facebook expertise would be coming to Pakistan, and they have already sort of taken care of most of the stuff that pertain to the petition, which relates to all, or could be called blasphemous already. So the government is going cautiously, and they know the importance of the social media, its impact on society, and they're not going to take any hasty decision as far as I think.
Interesting how you put it, Mr. Ali, because there were parallels being drawn with Bangladesh, and both countries have similar blasphemy laws. The only difference is that in Bangladesh, the bloggers were attacked by Islamist fundamentalists, whereas here it is government agencies which are involved in the action against them.
You see, there's no doubt about that. I'm not defending the fact that we have a problem here in Pakistan. But you see, on the other side, when we look at it, people take liberties and they go beyond a certain limit. So we are stuck between two extremes, one extremely liberal and one extremely hardliners. So this is an inherent problem in Pakistan society, and we are all sort of victim to it.
Is there a feeling that the government might be using this to crack down on criticism, on critics?
I don't think so. You see, the government did not. It was not the government the guy who was picked recently was not picked up by the government. He was picked up by sensitive agencies. So the government has little, or I would say no say in such matters when it comes to agencies' operations.
But the government did go to court and say, on our request, Facebook has taken down, quote-unquote, 85% of blasphemous material, and then go on to say that Facebook is receptive to our concerns, and we heard the Interior Minister take credit for it. So the government is acting with whoever is directing.
You see, it is acting, but it has not banned Facebook or Twitter in Pakistan. You see, the point is earlier YouTube had to be banned to meet the pressure the kind of pressure which was put on the government. My point is this time around they had taken a very sensitive, I would say, view of the whole thing, rather than going head over heels over the issue. They just thought it over and they managed it to an extent. And I don't think so there will be any clampdown on such people.
Okay.
I don't know. There might be sort of some inquiries or something like that, but I don't figure any clampdown, because the guy who was sort of picked up recently, they had to release him as well under the pressure of the people.
Right. And my final question to you is this, as we're talking about these parallels, the government, of course, acting under court's orders, and you're saying that it's better than banning Facebook. A lot of it could be politically motivated. I'm told we have to wrap this right now, but Mayad Ali, thanks very much for joining us here. And let me also thank Abdul Basit and Pramit Pal. Pramit, of course, will be joining you after this very short break on another story. Do stay with us, and thanks very much for watching.